called What Kind of Day Has It Been, which is a reference to The West Wing and Aaron Sorkin, because the last episode of the first season of every Aaron Sorkin TV show is titled What Kind of Day Has It Been. I don't know if you knew that.
Of every show he's ever done?
Sports Night, West Wing, Studio 60, and I think Newsroom, too. So anyways, this is how the song starts. So, it's kind of inspired by Identity Formation by A Nova.
I can see that.
But also an older Engineers song.
Wait, so when you're writing this, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but do you, like that part for instance, did you like write that down on a staff before you programmed it, or do you just have it in your head and then you're kind of figuring it out, or is it just, you're just going one step at a time and it develops as you program?
Yeah, it kind of develops as I program. Like I had this idea, the idea of it is to have this like really fast, this 16th note thing. So that was like the initial thing that came to me. I'll have that kind of a vibe going on. Mm-hmm. Just because when you put notes really fast all together, it makes it sound like you're better at programming than you are. So this was the first part that I wrote, as you can see, chain 0, 0, 1, phrase 0, 1. And so that was the first thing I wrote, and you can hear panning and duty cycle changes in that too. And
what is a duty cycle change?
Duty cycle with a pulse instrument, with a square wave instrument. If you imagine a square wave, you can imagine like it's on for 50% of the time, and then it goes down, and then it's off for 50% of the time. A duty cycle refers to that proportion of on to off. Like okay. if it's on for 12.5% of the time versus whatever 70 whatever percent of the time.
Okay.
Like it just has a different tone to it.
There's a visual for it. You'll see in it.
So yeah, if you look at the instrument screen, you can see you can control.
Oh, I see.
What kind of thing it is, but if you listen to my part, you maybe don't have the developed ear for it that some of us might.
Right.
But you can hear that it's changing slightly, and the way that it's doing that is on this table, which is a table is like sort of a collection of effects that you can put on an instrument. I wrote in a bunch of different things. One of which is W commands, which changes the duty cycle. Okay. Which just sort of changes like the tone of it, like the timbre of it. The O commands stand for output, so that's controlling the panning from left to right. And then I also put these C's here, which is, I'll just say, is a way to change the pitch of the note. So a C is an octave above.
It's transposing.
And the TSP at the top stands for transpose.
Okay.
So what happens is, normally with a table, you would get, it like runs through all of these on every single note. Okay. But with this, what I wanted to do was use the automate function, and so what it'll do instead is every time an instrument with that table plays a note, it will advance another row. So the first note plays pan to the middle with the wavelength 25, and the second note plays pan to the middle, you know what I mean? And so the third note plays pan to the left with a duty cycle of 50. So if you play it, you can see it scrolling through them.
Okay.
So it's like basically it's rather than assigning each of those commands in the other window, rather than writing them all in there. Plus, you don't have as much room.
Plus, you can't do two commands at once on a phrase screen.
Yeah.
So you kind of. This is a way to sort of.
So it's more like you do it once, and then you just tell. It's also a little bit of randomness, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. Like for example, I could make a table where it'll be no effect on the first row, no effect on the second row, and then I put a vibrato command on the third row,
Right.
And so then when I played this, every third note would have a little bit of vibrato on it, and it would just sound more of like a natural way that you'd like play a song. What a lot of people do though is they'll actually go in and they write on the command line here every single specific vibrato or every effect or command.
Yeah.
But sometimes I like to put it on the table and turn the automate on, because then it's like, this is something I wouldn't have programmed. It just sort of does it on its own. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's say you do a table that has like 5 commands and you have automate on. But then you have 16 notes, so it's gonna loop kind of.
Oh, so it'll be changing.
Yeah, it'll change every one.
Yep.
Which is kind of cool. It kind of a way to humanize it a little.
Yeah, so like with this one, it's center, center, left, left, right, right. And those are that's threes, and so, but it's dividing it among 16 steps, and so it's 3 divided by 16, and so it comes out odd and does kind of interesting things you wouldn't think of. So at the end, it jumps up an octave here, which is...
I got a question about this part. It sounds like the second time it goes through it, almost like the phases or the wave changes, but is that something?
Yeah, on the second pulse channel.
Yeah, you just change the wave. That's just the wave changing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you look at it, it's the same exact notes,
Okay.
1 octave down, but
Duty
so
cycle.
you can hear that duty cycle versus that.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're taking a frequency. You're turning the frequency down a synth.
Yeah, so that way when you play the two together...
Oh, you're getting like a harmony type effect.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, kind of choruses, or I don't even know. The wave channel's super basic. Yeah.
Impressive stuff.
And the noise channel for the beginning is pretty basic too. But so then you get this kick drum part that comes in.
Yeah. Whoa.
Well,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
That's
talk
okay.
over it.
20 questions just came up.
so on the noise channel, I have a little bit of a noise kick drum. And a little drum fill at the end.
Yeah.
Um,
Taking notes.
Yeah, okay. So, oops. So the kick drum I think is on the pulse channel. So it's one thing that people do a lot with Game Boy music is they will put 2 instruments on the same channel, and by alternating so quickly between them, your ear sort of doesn't realize that that's happening. They just think there's 2 instruments now.
Well, and that's the channel that you had the doubling of the first channel. So you can put the kick drum in there without affecting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it just sort of, when you go from this to the next one, it just sounds like a kick drum coming.
Wait, can you go to the second pulse channel and kind of just hear that? And so, yeah, that doesn't sound as big here, and it's getting that big just because you're adding it with the noise channel.
Yeah,
Okay.
with the noise one, yeah. The noise has a good amount of attack with it,
Yeah.
You get the
Definitely.
so it's got a little bit of but it's got a good amount of bass to it too. I like doing noise kick drums a lot, and you'll hear it in other spots in my songs, but you do it with the table, and I just have the shape sweep down really quick at the beginning, so every time that kick drum instrument hits, it runs through all of these effects quickly on it, and the shape, what shape is it sort of, instead of hearing white noises, by adjusting the shape down or up, you kind of go,
Okay.
so you kind of are rapidly going like, so when you do that, you get kind of a good kick drum sound.
Well, let's talk about that helicopter noise.
Yeah. Well, it's got it's.
Yeah.
If I get rid of the K commands. don't know what if...
What are the K commands?
I don't know what that...
You got some
I'll show you in 1 second.
Z commands on?
Oh, it's just random S commands on it. That's just...
Okay.
But since these are positive numbers, it's going up. It's going from the...
Yeah.
To like these crazy sounds.
Now,
And so it's running all 4 of those on each single note of these. And,
okay.
but I was going to say also I have a changing octave on the noise. But the K commands, what those do is they make the notes a little more staccato. So normally there's 6 ticks in every 16th note.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is you can adjust it and make it smaller to cut it off quicker. You can make the notes shorter like that. So
Yeah.
just a kind of a random noisy thing just to add a little drum fill.
My question was, I'm thinking compositionally here maybe. When you were writing this and you're like, okay, I want a little drum fill there, did you start with the idea, okay, something with a K command that'll be short and staccato, or with those sounds and then added the K command as an afterthought?
I'm not sure which I did in this case.
Okay.
Normally, all my drum fills, my like go-to drum fill is 16th notes, forehanda,
Yeah, okay.
and I just do that.
And you just use some weird sound.
And
You don't
then
think
you
like
just,
actual
like-
drum set fill.
Sometimes I do,
Okay.
but when I started programming music, it was, I didn't know anything about programming music,
Right.
and so every drum fill was just when you had a 2, you had a
Yeah.
just all 16th notes, and so that's always sort of like the first thing I think of even now. But no, I do think of real drum parts a lot. But in this case, I'm not sure what I did, but you just want some weird noise, and I didn't want to drop one of the pulse. I didn't want to drop one of the pulse channels out to do it. So then I bring a melody in, which is pretty straightforward.
Can you solo the melody? Can we hear it solo?
It's just the table on it is just it changes waves every 16th note. It changes waves, so you can hear that change is happening perfectly in time with the music.
Yep.
But so you cut out this, replaced the initial
Yeah.
track, but then you still have the kind of the changing track on the second pulse wave channel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So it's kind of like you hear it one way, and then you sort of bring in one thing, and you sort of bring in the other thing, and your mind almost kind of like keeps.
Yeah, it's like tricking you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the
This part sounded cool.
transition part's kind of cool.
Yeah.
The noise
Shit going on there.
is pretty normal.
Z command there?
I think I did. Yeah. So
Boom.
so what I did for that table is the volume increases a tick every or increases by 1 every 6 ticks, and since the song has a groove of 6, that means every 16th note it gets 1
Oh,
louder.
wow, that's
So
interesting.
like I was saying before to you, Dan, inside each of these 16th notes are 6 ticks.
Mm-hmm.
Whoops. And so on this screen, what it does is you can see it says it plays initially at a volume of 1 for 6 ticks,
Mm-hmm.
and then a volume of 2 for 6 ticks, and 3 for 6 ticks.
I gotcha. Yeah.
So it's just over 16 notes. It just kind of goes from quietest to highest.
What are when it starts saying like A6, B6, C6? Is that like 10, 11, 12?
Yeah, it's because all the numbers in LSDJ are shown in hexadecimal instead of decimal.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is it goes 1 through 9 and then A through F.
Okay.
And A through F is 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Okay.
And so what it does is I use a Z command, which I really like, which means so initially at the top of it you get the S command, which will change the shape of the noise really quickly.
Yeah, we talked about that one. Yeah.
Yep. And then the Z command, what it does is it's a random command, and it will perform the same effect that was done previously, so the S command again, but it will randomize the values that control what the effect is going to sound like. It'll randomize it, and I forget what the math is, but so you can see at the top it says redo last command with random value 0 through n added to last command. So it adds a 2 to the last command. So that means every time it hits that Z, it's going to change it slightly, not, a gigantic change, but just a little bit, and so you kind of get a weird sort of growing effect to it. But and then what H does is it is a hop command, and it hops back to the first row. You can see I wrote H01. So it hops back to the first row and then performs that random effect again, and then performs that random effect again over and over again,
Okay, and so those are all happening, the S, Z, and H are happening at each level?
Well, it's all, they actually run independently of each other.
Okay.
And so the volume is going up independently, and then this center row of effects goes on independently, and then the last row of effects, if there were any, would cycle at their own rate too. But so the volume is just going straight up, that's its own thing.
Yeah.
And then the commands, it's hitting that Z, and then it's just looping the Z, constantly doing random shape commands.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Do you have
Sweep
automate
shape.
on real quick?
No, not on this one.
Then how does the volume go up one at a time?
Because the first digit in the volume
Oh, the 6
line,
ticks?
yeah. The first
Okay.
digit's the volume, and the second digit's the
Gotcha.
duration.
So if it was at 0, would it just tear through them like it normally does?
Yeah, like
Yes.
but so I put it at 6, so that way it happens perfectly
note.
in step with the song.
Cool.
That was one thing, especially when we were doing early Revengineer songs. I would have tables that would cycle in groups of 4.
Okay.
Because I thought, oh, that makes sense.
4 beats.
16 steps, I break it up into 4s. But then you're hearing these ultra fast effects and arpeggios that are not happening in the tempo of the song.
I remember we was talking about that.
Yeah, and so
How did you figure it out?
well, I just eventually learned. I think
6
probably
ticks per.
I just learned more about the programming.
That's just a thing about the program.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just
Not music theory. It's just
okay.
how the program
It's just 6 ticks inside of
You
each
can
thing.
you can set it actually too. It's a groove 6 ticks.
Oh, okay.
So you can set it, but just by default it starts at 6, and so.
So if you changed it to 4, and then you could change it, and then change the setting to 4,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it
then
would still be in time.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. But before, we would have these songs where we'd have these arpeggios and parts going on, and Colby or Steve would have to listen to them,
Yeah.
and they would be alternating
Yeah.
at a tempo that wasn't the
Right.
tempo of the song,
So they're playing, and it's like.
and then it kind of
Yeah.
takes them off of it a little bit.
Or the ARP would, when it reached the end of the measure, it would be hitting like a note right in the middle instead of like the final note or something
Right,
like
yeah.
that.
So eventually I learned to do things in 6s and 3s,
Right.
and that's a little bit better to do.
Why are 6s and 3s better than 4s?
Because there's 6 ticks in every note.
But I mean, can't you change it to
You could.
be 4 ticks?
You could,
Yeah.
if you wanted
okay.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
there's no reason. I just
Just
leave
set
it
as default.
It's all every time you start a new song.
It just
groove is
defaults
always
to
set to
okay.
6, and I don't know if there's more
There's
reasons than that.
Yeah, there's probably some reason, but it's dumb.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. So that's what the noise does. The wave, I think. Okay, so let's play this. I'll just play just the wave channel from before the transition. So what happens is the wave is playing a note, and it doesn't have a cutoff. Like it doesn't have a decay to it. It just is constantly
Steady.
playing a note until you tell it to stop. And so what I do on the next chain is I put a pitch bend command of 2, so that means it's going to bend the note up. Slowly, then halfway through the measure, I turn that value up higher, starts pitch bending it faster, then it pitch bends it really fast up.
And the
Okay.
thing is,
And then for the next measure, it's pitch bending it up and up and up. And the thing about the way pitch bends work in LSDJ and the way they don't work in any other kind of music program is when you pitch bend a note all the way up, it'll eventually hit a maximum pitch. It'll reach the highest pitch it can go. And then it starts over at the lowest pitch and then cycles through all the pitches again. And so you get these weird effects when you do it super fast.
yeah.
Hitting the top, you hear these like, you get this kind of stuff.
My question
You see what
is,
I mean?
Yeah.
there's no commands, but it sounds like it changes that second time.
Yeah, it does. I don't know why it does that.
It just did that?
It just does it on its
Cool.
own.
Can you play that whole part again?
I like ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, there's like a weird thing the way that when it repeats. We might cut this out of the thing, but if I just put a bunch of extra shit down here, these are all empty measures, and I play the bass note thing before it. Yeah, so it just makes random, unexpected kinds of effects, and that's just because the way the pitch bend stuff in LSDJ works is so unique like that. So then. So I have the part from the beginning going. I have cool sample stuff that I like. But I put a wave kick on the first hit. So when it comes in, you hear like a big crash, and like a big entrance. I use a lot of Z commands to make a. And this is something I really like doing, is having the random effects on big crashes like this, because every time you play the song forever, it's gonna sound different.
Yep.
And it's kind of a bit shifter inspired melody. I kind of like with these songs just putting in instruments that have no effects on them, just totally basic.
Yep.
Simple, childlike melody kind of things. That's another
Pitch bend.
Yeah.
yeah.
Where can you say the placement of that? Now, when you're picking that value of that P command, do you just experiment till you get it right, till it like hits the point where you want it to hit?
Yeah, because I kind of like it.
Does it sound perfect? Like it's just,
It kind of just gets to the highest note by the end of it. And so that's what I was going for. I like that it happens halfway through the measure, and then it hits that highest note right before it loops back around. Because if you did make it if you made it higher, you get that. You get the.
Because it's starting over at the end.
almost. Yeah, it's like just getting there.
Some things that you can do too is if you find the right value, you can get that whip 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 sound to happen perfectly in time.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. So. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And then I do another crash thing in there too.
double the melody there?
Yeah, it's harmonized on the first 2 channels, so.
What do you call it? Interval is that?
Probably like just thirds.
Okay.
That's usually what I do.
How are you... When that melody first came in, it sounded like the notes were more separated, and now the notes are kind of bending together. How did you do that?
When you say when I first did the notes, you mean?
Yeah, like there the notes aren't bending together, but then when it goes down to 9, the notes play the melody.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. What it is because if you look at the notes,
It's like no effects.
Yeah.
So what it is if you go to the instruments page, you can see the envelope there, and the second digit of the envelope, a way to think of it is as the duration that it holds out at. So if 8 is sort of like it's going to hold out for an infinite amount of time.
Okay.
So you can
Decay almost to the note too.
you can adjust the decay of the notes. So that way.
What were you using on the measure before? Like a lower.
Yeah, I'm sure like 3 or something.
That's kind of more like a childlike. It's almost like a marimba, silly piano sound.
Yeah. But then I also do the same effects on both channels. But when I put in my little wave effects, I'll usually just copy the effects and go over and paste them in. But I always make sure the wave changes are different on both pulse channels.
Ah, okay. So there's a little bit of contrast.
I'm trying to see. Oh, one thing I like to do is.
But does it do that slide automatically? I'm sorry.
No, that's an L command.
Okay.
An L command is kind of a pitch bend, but what it does is it pitch bends up to the note that you have specified, or down to the note you have specified. So you can set that end point that it hits. So it's bending down from an F sharp to an E at a speed of 1.
Okay.
And so if I turned it up, those notes are very close together. So it's kind of a slight effect. You don't hear it as much. Like D to C sharp is only a half step away. So, but you kind of hear you kind of hear it bend down to it.
But if you change that C sharp to like octave.
Okay.
So it's just a nice way to make it a little more expressive, or just to make it sound a little less robotic. But one thing I really like to do too is add wave. What are these called? Waveform, set waveform commands. I like to do the duty cycle commands with 16th notes like this. So then when you hear both of them, it just kind of happens on the beat. So there's a lot in there.
Yes.
The first thing is the little panning drum fill. It's done with just pitch commands, so it's just kind of like I almost was trying to go for like a rototom kind of thing. Get these like high,
very pulsy or melody driven fill.
It's like so you get just a little way to spruce it up.
Right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think the panning is on a automated table.
Nice.
So every note pans left, then right, then left, then right. There's also a pitch bend command on it, which I'm kind of surprised by because I have pitch bends on the notes too.
Doesn't make a difference.
Oh. Whoops. So instead of having it harmonized like I did before, I have arpeggios. Because you can only play one note at a time, so the only way to do chords is to rapidly change between the notes of the chords. You know? So you do that the same way with the tables. So I'm going from... What I like to do sometimes, like throughout this progression, you got major and minor chords. And so instead of making multiple tables and multiple instruments for major and minor, sometimes what I'll do is I'll just make power chord ones. So I'll go 0, which is the root note, C, which is an octave above, and then 7, which is the fifth of the chord. So it's just a power chord, basically. And then you can use it for if the chord is major or minor, and it doesn't matter. But it's also at the same time changing the duty cycle of the notes. But then you can also see it's changing it. There's 4 duty cycles, but only 3 notes, and so then they repeat oddly as well.
Yeah.
But one thing I didn't talk about before was the wave stuff too. Oh, I doubled those pulse toms with sample toms too.
Oh, nice.
You can't barely hear
I'm
it.
sure it adds to. I'm sure if you took them out.
And then. And I try to go for a bigger sounding snare drum, especially in this part.
Longer than.
So. So the snare drum here doesn't have that same amount of room to trail out. Just sort of basic little hi-hatty bullshit. Just to vary it up, I changed the chords in the second half of it, but the drum fill I really ended up liking. It's an alternation between wave kick drum and then sample snare drums. It's just kind of random, but it kind of like ended up working out.
Is that kick drum? Did you change the volume on that? Is that lowered or is that?
This one is. I don't know why I did that. You just make random decisions and vary it up a little bit.
Well, it makes sense if you're doing a fill. You don't want it to just be like super boomy between parts. Like,
yeah, and then
sounds cool.
pretty basic part, but I think I put in some of those pitch bends things too. Basically anytime you want to have a drum fill and you don't know what to do, just put random pitch bend commands. The thing that's cool though is it's a pitch bend command on ARP.
Yeah.
And so if you just put one pitch bend command in, I think it stops. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It hits it and then it doesn't continually change the pitch, so you have to put in put them on every step. And you just get weird effects. I'm sure if I kept turning it up, it would get even weirder. So, and then this one, pretty basic too. So then we get the next part of the song.
Let's talk about that.
It's the same pulse part from before. I just used it throughout the entire song. The same pulse part from earlier in the song, again. And then this alternates between wave kick drum. So this is the Zeph Danimal Cannon rip-off wave instrument. But basically, you go to the wave, it's looped. You go up to the wave for it, and you kind of just randomly mess around with the values of all the different stuff until you get something that sounds kind of cool.
Okay. It opens up nice.
Yeah. If you actually looked at the wave and watch it, the wave is getting
tighter.
Yeah, there's more frequencies per thing
Yeah.
until it gets to the end and it's like gone. So just kind of a cool little part. But then I also have a table on it, which is a kind of a cool realization that you can put tables on the crazy wave stuff too. And so it's just alternating octaves.
Oh, cool.
So I mean, if I got rid of it,
which is still pretty cool.
and it's actually kind of similar to the bass line in another song.
Oh, there you go. So when you hit that table, like, definitely makes it a little more interesting. Yeah.
So, and then I don't know if there's any noise. Just random little. Just random shit. But then what I do is in between those wave kick drums, I bring the samples back in on the second half.
Right now it's all.
So you can hear like. And to vary it up so it wasn't that same wave thing every time I added panning stuff on the second time.
But it's like the kit, the sampled kit is underneath enough where it's like not overtaking.
Yeah, it's like another instrument's coming in.
Yeah.
So pretty normal. Most of this stuff is repetition after this point.
Do you have the lower melody on like pulse 1 and then that higher melody on pulse 2?
Yeah,
Is that
basically.
what's going on?
If you just listen to the melody parts.
Is that like a vibrato going on the higher one?
Let's see what we got. You mean on that thing?
Yeah, what's that? What's going on there?
On A, it's changing waves, and there is a little bit of vibrato on it.
Oh, okay.
It's not. I
You
think
can
it's.
hear that like soft clicking almost.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that the vibrato or what is
I
that?
think that
That's the wave.
Oh, okay.
Let me see what happens.
No,
Yeah.
so it must be the wave.
But so yeah, so what I was saying before is I like basically rewrote most of this section of the song at Steve's house, and then I kind of like the way the drums sound. So I just basically I think I copied the. So it's kind of a merging of the drum fill from before and then the weird wave sound from before too. So then I go back into that opening jam, but I kind of have this. I think of it as like a what's his name, Stuart Copeland.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, I sort of think of it as a drum part that he would play.
Yeah. I don't see it, but
It's basically just the part from before, except there's an arpeggio and there's a snare drum pattern. Another little transition piece of bullshit. Normal. Normal. Just weird thing. And then
that crash.
that crash kind of thing.
That's a good.
And that's the thing that happened before, right?
The crash.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
The kind of like the
Random.
drum fill into the part that starts like halfway through or whatever.
Oh, but so then there's a cool effect here.
That pulse.
Yeah, so you can hear you hear the melody end on that B with a good healthy vibrato going. And then if you go down to the next chain, you can see the vibrato's going up into like outlandishly high vibrato area, but the volume you can see goes from a set E. So the first digit of an E command is the volume, so it goes from 7 to 6 to 5 to 4. So as the volume's going down, you can see these V commands
Going up.
are going up, and so you get.
It's a nice way to control that craziness.
Yeah. I kind of ripped off a Nirvana drum part.
Oh yeah? Good song. Yeah, that's the one.
So I was like, oh, because I just had it looped the same drum part the whole time. I was like, yo, I gotta put a little something in there, and so I was like,
Yeah, definitely. That constant bass drum.
so, and then. So I didn't really know how to end it.
Cool.
So I kind of just drop one instrument out, drop one instrument out, drop one instrument out, and then have that sort of melody play by itself at the end. That's the whole thing. But then I got all the rejected sections of the songs.
Oh my god.
I want to actually play some for you. See what this one is. Well, I eventually swapped this with the. If you hear that melody, do do do, it's this part.
I like the kind of like slower.
Yeah,
not slower, but like a breakdown of it.
Yeah, I did too. But I felt that I was doing that with too many of the songs on this. On this EP, there'd be like, you'd be like rocking, and then there'd be the slow bridge, and then you'd be rocking again, and I do it like on a couple of them. So I was like, well, but I don't have a feel like that anywhere else on the thing. So so the other thing that I really wanted to experiment with when I first wrote this song was M commands, which not a lot of people really use, I think. So what M commands do is they let you control the master volume of a song. And they let you control the master volume of both speakers independently of each other, which I think is kind of cool. And so what I did is I have these phrases, 13, 14, 15, or these chains. And in them is a single phrase, and in the phrase, all there is this table command. And if you go to the table, all it does is 1D will alternate between full volume and a volume of 0, so muted, and it alternates every 6 ticks, which is 16th notes. So if I were to play that section, so it's basically like 8th notes. You know what I mean? It's like on, off, on, off,
yeah.
off. So you kind of get this 8-note pulse with it, which I think is really cool. But then I was like, oh, it'd be cool in the section of the song I can just jam by changing that muting pattern. And so in 14, you can see it does it twice as fast.
Okay.
And so 14 would sound like.
So why didn't you end up using that in the song?
I just didn't like it. But then 15 is even faster. It happens every tick. And so every tick it's alternating from on to off, and so. Yeah, it's cool because people don't really use those effects. But yeah,
that is a cool effect.
The cool thing about Game Boy music too is you can actually sort of jam a little bit too.
That's cool.
And so you can sort of use that as a way to jam around a little bit.
Cool.
And then rejected part. That at the open mic.
You did do that?
That part was at the open mic. This part. Rejected parts. But I think that's it. Alright, so play the whole thing?
Yeah.
What kind of day has it been?